Hey everyone, I'm Patrick Brown and happy Halloween. This is monthly project number 27 and the theme is zombies. So this should be a lot of fun. Drawing zombies is one of my favorite things to do. I did a Halloween piece last year featuring all the dead of the MCU. They're coming back as zombies. And that was a lot of fun. So I thought this would be a really fun theme for this month. So let's get right into it. So each month I pick 3 submissions and I'm going to critique them and break them down, give some feedback. So congratulations to you, Eric, Camille and Aaron. I'll be jumping into your critiques towards the end of the video. Alright, now let's have a look at some zombie submissions. First up, we've got Paul. I really like this one. I think that's great. You've got some zombies in the sewer system here, crawling through. I really like your art style. You've got a really cool style. It works really well for this as well. It's great seeing what you've done with the skeleton here. Very accurate, looks really good. I especially love the way that the clothing drapes off and it's really hanging off that skeleton. It looks great. And next up we've got Renee here and you've done an epic piece. Have a look at this. Big MCU zombie piece. I think it's from What If. So you've got the What If zombie Captain America. There's a Captain Marvel there. And they're all battling the zombies. So cool to see. I really love what you've done with Spider-Man there. That's a really cool pose as well. I think I can see Deadpool down the back there. Is that Deadpool? Oh yeah, Hawkeye. Zombie Wolverine. You've even got a zombie Thor and a Wanda there as well. So these look really good. That's a great piece there. Huge effort too. Really huge effort. Well done on that. Next up is Cedric. And you've done The Walking Dead. I love The Walking Dead. This looks like it's from the comics version. Robert Kirkman. This is great. Very good drawing there. I really like how you've got the shading with that dotted effect. Like that just comes out really well. Looks really cool for this. It's a very unique style. So yeah, well done. That's awesome. Alright, next up we've got Abby. And you've done a Spider-Man piece here, which has got Miles Morales, Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy all zombified. And they look great. Really cool. I love these action poses. I like how you're pushing your rendering further now. I like that. It looks really cool, that lighting effect. You got a really nice clean style. I like it. Gwen looks really cool up there too. Great job on that city as well. And next up we got Cyril. And I absolutely love this because that's me. You got my logo there. Oh, I love that. That's so cool. Thank you. Got a couple of zombies over my shoulder. I look a little bit worried there. But I like what you've done with your line work, like super crisp. That actually works really well with that paper effect. You've got this texture that's going over the whole piece. Your line work's top notch, by the way. Really good line work there. I love, how it's really dark and black through the mouth there. Really nice tapered outlines, thick and thin, and yeah, got a lot of volume through that. So well done on that. That is awesome. That's so cool. Thanks for that. Next up is Jeremy and Sai, and let's have a look at Jeremy's piece here. This is cool, huge piece. I love your animated style, like it looks really cool. I could see this in like a cartoon or something like that. I like how they're just, they're actually trick-or-treating for people. That's so cool. I love that. They got their little baskets ready. Such a cool idea, really nice. I love your style. All right, next up is Sai, and you've got this cool zombie piece here. I really like what you've done, especially how you've got silhouetted zombies in the back, so it really feels like there's a whole horde of them. I just like the way they look. You've got a really cool style, and you've done a great job on these. I love the facial expressions and just the poses as well. Very, very cool how they're just all slumped over. It's like they're struggling to walk. I really like that. This guy's got his brain hanging out. That's so cool. The detailing's really good. All those grunge effects, the way you've done the blood as well. It looks like you've got wet, soaked in blood combined with fresh blood over the top. I really like that. And this one over here, yeah, they look great. Really cool stuff. Love how the shirt's torn open. That is so cool. Huge piece as well, really big one. The color scheme works perfect for this as well. Very Halloween-y. Awesome work, guys. All right, next is Bartek. This is crazy. Oh, that is so cool. You've done a really good job of all of these ones. I especially like this one here. She's great. Like, it's just so detailed right through, mixed with grunge effects, and it's just so gritty. The veins and the creepiness about it is just, yeah, amazing. This guy looks really cool. This one here as well. I like the pose. They just all look so good. I love what you've done. That's so creepy as well. Really nice work here. Well done on that. I think that's amazing, Bart. And next up, we've got William and Olivia. And let's have a look here. Williams, you're always doing some top quality work. I just love how clean and crisp your work is. So nice. And I like what you do with the dotted halftone effect. That's a really good, that's like your style now. It's a really good touch. If you ever want to push that further, I highly recommend using a brush like this. I'll share it with you later. It's basically pressure sensitive, so the lighter you press, the thinner the dots. And then the harder you press, you know, they go a lot thicker. So yeah, I think that'll work really well with your style as well. But these look great. I really like what you've done with Wolverine here and the way his claws, like the interaction with the claws and him, like it really shows his personality. Same with Deadpool, that's just great. Awesome stuff. Love that glowing eye as well. And Olivier, let's have a look over here. And you've done two pieces. So you've got this one and this one here, which are both really cool. That's crazy, that's brutal. I love it. A zombie DJ is a really nice touch. I also like how you've got these silhouettes in the back, like there's just some craziness going on in the background there. And then this guy's just rocking it. It's so cool. And this one's great as well. You've done a really cool job there. Nice work. And last up of these submissions, before we get into the critiques, we've got Mirko and Joel. And we've got some sketches here from Mirko. Really love those facial expressions as well. They look awesome and really animated as well. I really like the way you've done those. So much energy in your drawings. That's great. And Joel, you've got, this is Jason. I love the Jason movies. You've done a really cool sketch here. I like that. But this must be like a zombified Jason when he comes out of the river or the lake, is it? And he's like really almost zombified. But you've pushed that further and really pushed him into an actual zombie. I like that. He really is a version of the living dead, isn't he? Awesome work, guys. Now it's time to do some critiques and give some feedback. So we're going to start with Eric and then Camille, and then we're going to get into Aaron's piece. Alright, Eric has done The Walking Dead, an awesome show. I've watched like most of the seasons. I think I'm up to like season 8 or something like that. And here we've got, I believe, Daryl taking down some zombies. This is really cool, Eric, and you've done a massive piece here. This is huge. Look at all the walkers up there. Really cool, really big piece. Now let's break it down for you. I'll give you a bit of feedback on it and see what we can improve. I actually gave Eric some feedback earlier in the month on my Discord. And this was the artwork he sent asking for some feedback. And I replied with some feedback. I mentioned that so this is the original here, and I wanted the zombie pushed down a little more, like just a little bit more room in the lower half of this area of the picture. And here's a bit of a markup as well, so it just explains the changes that I made. And Eric's made all those adjustments and he's made this whole piece here, which is awesome. And let's get into the critique a bit more. So Eric, I think overall, I think the main issue is probably the composition itself. So I just feel like there's a bit too much empty space around here. There just seems to be this huge area around here where there's just not too much going on. And I know that if I put a grid up for the rule of thirds, which is an artist technique, I know you've got Daryl down here in this interesting point here. So that's how the rule of thirds work. Usually you can put interesting points in these areas and that works really well for a picture. But usually it works better when you have it balanced out. So you've got that and then that there. But these walkers up here aren't really prominent enough for that to work. So I just think overall it's just a bit too spaced out. So I'm just going through and rearranging the composition. So I really feel like Daryl should be a lot bigger and the center focus. I think that'd be really cool. And then have the zombies just surrounding him. And this is kind of what I've ended up with. So you can see the original there. That's what we had before. And that's what we've got now. So really just making use of that space. So I think it was just the original setup, the original idea of the composition just needed some work. So I think if that was just planned out right, you'd be all set. So something like this with Daryl right in the middle. And I think doing this composition really adds a lot of drama to it as well, or tension I should say, because if you look at all the zombies, all of them are looking directly toward Daryl into the middle. You get kind of that center focus effect where, you know, everything's pointing into the middle. Now let's talk a little bit more about rendering, and I want to talk about some outlines as well. So you asked me specifically how was your rendering going and what can you do to improve. I think you're on the right track. I think that the only problem is it's just coming across a little bit inconsistent. For instance, you see this zombie here and the way you've done his hair and face, that's quite cell shaded. And for those that aren't sure what cell shading is, it's basically just using no gradients, so no soft fades, and only using shading in a sharp process, so sharp levels of shading. So this guy has been really cell shaded, whereas you get to Daryl and it's more of a painted style. So it's kind of like you're mixing a few different styles into one picture, and that makes it a bit inconsistent. So that can be confusing to look at. For instance, you look at Daryl here and the way you've done his outlines, the outlines seem to be colored to match the skin, things like that. But then you look at this zombie over here and he has very black, stark black outlines, and he's very cell shaded with not much of that painted look. So everything's a little bit different in that way, and I really feel like you'll need to stick to one style and just have it flow through the entire picture, and I think that'll really work for you. See, I really like the way you've done this guy here, the way you've rendered that as well. I like that grungy rendering. That's cool because it's sharp and it comes across clear, but you know, it's still broken down into a cell shaded level, so that works really well there. But I would love to see that go through the entire picture. And the last thing that I want to talk about with your style is the way you're coloring your outlines. So you'll lighten your outlines. They do get lost when you get into darker areas. I'm finding that your outlines are starting to get a little lost. So what I would do is keep the outlines pretty much black as you get into darker areas. So under the coat here, just keep that pure black, and that'll start to add a lot of contrast to the character itself. See how adding just some black lines in will really just bring that contrast in. And it's mainly, I'm focusing on the darker areas. You see what I mean here with this arm? That arm's getting lost, so it no longer looks kind of held together. So what I would do is really have those outlines really strong and just dark, like pitch black up here to hold that hand together. And then even when you get to Daryl here, and this coat is got pretty much pure shadow under it, so start to really focus on areas like this and just add, you know, complete darkness in some areas of your inks and your line work. And you can even bring it back with just a little bit of cross hatching or some ink work there, like sketchy ink work like this, to resemble some of those wrinkles in the jeans. And I feel like that's really going to start to make this ink work look a lot more solid, and your picture will have a lot more clarity. So yeah, you see that there? See how that's really starting to bring in a lot more focus now, and it's gonna, you know, if this was continued through the entire piece, I think that it'll be a much stronger picture. Even just little bits like under the nose here, I'll have just thin lines just to hold that together a little more. So for the skin on the arm there, I really like how you've lightened those outlines on that arm there. It's really only when you get up into the darker areas where you want to try and, you know, have that contrast. And again, just up the back here, so the blackness that's within them zombies is really stark black. You can either lighten those up and so it's not completely black. That's probably what I would do, or you can actually start to have the trees match that darkness. So get the ink work on those trees to do the same as those, just so it matches. You see what I mean? Like really pull these trees in together so they've got outlines that are really dark. You can even silhouette some of these trees out just like that there, and I reckon that'd look really cool as well. But there we go, I've actually lightened up the blackness so it's not just pure black in that background, and that'll give it a little bit of distance, make it feel like it's further away. So I highly recommend doing something like that, Eric. Your work is awesome. I hope these tips helped. So we'll just do a quick before and after overall. So before we had this, and like I said, just composition stuff. So if we plan that from the start, I think you're doing great. I love your work. Keep it up, and yeah, I can't wait to see what you do next. All right, next up is Camille, and you've done a Captain America zombie, which is really cool. And you've also got your inks that you sent through as well. So I'm going to use those in the critique as well, because I think that that's the main part we're going to talk about here, I think. And I really like the way you've drawn this too. You've done a really good job of detailing and the cross-hatching. It looks awesome. There's just so much detail to it. I just think that's really good. As for the feedback and the critique, I recommend focusing on areas with proportions and anatomy, because I just feel like there's a little bit here where the arm might be a little bit short there, a little bit of a short arm. The head might be a little bit too big. The body and torso seem to be fine, and especially as it gets down to the legs, that's all fine. I think it's just the arms and the head. So I've just made some slight adjustments here for your sketch, so you can kind of see the proportion changes there. But overall, I think that the main thing here that I'm noticing is I'd love to see a pose that is a little bit more animated or a little bit more movement in it, because at the moment it's just a little bit too straight up and down. I would love to see a bit more motion. So I did actually do a sketch over the top of this, but for some reason I didn't have the recording going as I was drawing, so I've only got the last half of my drawing here, but you can kind of see what I was going for there. I've just layered it over the top of yours. You can kind of see that motion. You see how there's a little bit more flow through the... I tried to go for a little bit more flow in the body like this. You see that motion there? So yeah, a motion line right through the middle, and that gave me a good idea of movement, like the overall body movement. And I wanted this guy to seem really, you know, like dead, and like he's more slumped over and reaching out forward. So what I'll do is I'm going to try and get your sketch over the top of this guy, see if we can get it looking the same. So I'm just going through now, just trying to match those proportions that I've got from that sketch that I made, and trying to use yours to kind of, you know, warp to it. I'm going to adjust it all to that same structure, and we'll just see what we can come up with here. Because I really want to make sure that this is your sketch, it's just rearranged into the same proportions that I've made in that sketch. So here we go, this is what I've ended up with after doing all that rearranging there. There's the sketch underneath that I made earlier, and I've just tried to wrap it to that body. So, because I want you to know, the quality of sketching and the all that detail that you've put in here is top notch, and I think it's absolutely great. But yeah, I wanted to make it clear that the main thing, if we could just focus on the main anatomy and the proportions, you'll be right. So here is the original sketch there, and it was more about the pose as well. So the kind of flow in the pose, I really want to try and get that flow going through. I've also spread out the pose a little bit more, so you can see how the legs are now, you know, more parted, and the arms coming out further. This one's coming up, reaching towards us. Just makes it a little bit more engaging. Also a little bit more terrifying as well, because, you know, he's really trying to come at us a little bit more. So see how those nose holes are really large? So I just took them down to be more proportionate, and just like a zombie skull. And yeah, and that fixes that up. So longer face basically. And yeah, that's it. That's what I recommend. I hope that helps. I really love your sketching. I think you've done a really good job there. So yeah, great work there. There's your colored version as well. But yeah, I reckon if we just focused on that kind of stuff here first, I think you'll be golden. All right, thanks Camille. I love your work. And next up is Aaron, and you've done a zombie Superman. This is from the Green Lantern comics, the version of him called the Blackest Night. And let's have a closer look and see what you've done here. Very cool, very creepy looking. Good idea for a zombie as well. I love a good zombie Superman. So let's dive into the critique a bit, see what we can do for you. I feel like there's something about the fists that just aren't working for me. I feel like it makes him too alive or something like that, you know what I mean? Like we want to make him feel like the dead, like the living dead. And I just don't feel like fists really work in that way. So what I'm going to do is redraw over. I'd love to open up them hands, just have some creepy hands kind of reaching out and coming at you a little bit more. So just going to be drawing that up a little bit. Trying to get this other hand as well, so I'll try and do the other side. I feel like that would work a lot better if it was, yeah, like a creepy hand kind of rising, like clenching. Really vicious. I also feel like the face, I was just drawing the teeth as well, and I feel like we need to kind of redraw them, just a bit more clarity in the face. I'd love to get the structure of those teeth a little bit more accurate. Also with the nose, I would love to just make that a little smaller and bring that up a little bit more. Those nose holes were just a little too large and too low for me. So I'm just bringing that up. And another thing was the hairline as well. So I really want to make sure that hairline is a little lower. It was just too high before. So here we go. This is the sketch that I've got now, just from doing that rough. I'm going to clean it up. I'll clean it up as well, because I want to talk about some inks and line work, you know, your outlines. So yeah, you can see with the face here, like I said, I really wanted to have that hairline a lot lower. So before it was a little too high for me. And the teeth. You can see the teeth, they just don't feel clean enough, so I wanted to be able to get a bit more clarity in there so we can really see the definition in that face there. Just a bit more detail. Alright, and yeah, so the rest is fine. I really wanted to just I want to be able to see the anatomy a little more, so I've got the chest. Since the arm is rising, I want that chest muscle to kind of rise with it a little bit, up to the shoulder that wraps over. So and that shoulder needs to be a lot bigger there as well because that arm's rising. Basically just want to clean up the anatomy here. I feel like it just gets a little unsure. I just want to clear it all up a little bit more. So that's another thing, like as I'm about to do it now, we're going to start drawing in a sec, but I would love to see your line work cleaned up a lot more. I just feel like it might be a little bit too rough around the edges, you see, just through here. So I'd love to just clean it up a little bit more. I'll show you what I mean. So if I'll just make a new layer over there. So I really want to just do nice, simple, kind of straight, and add a little bit of volume to it as well. So a little thicker as it gets there. And because we've got light coming down here from the directional light, I'd love, wherever there's light, I would love it to be thin. So like this, like quite thin. And then as we get over to the other side of the shoulder, which is going to go into the darker area, so if this is our light source up here shining down from the sun, so let's just say that's the sun. So I'd love to have that thinner here, and then let's just say this is the darkness, if that's just a moon. This is how I like to explain it a little bit. Then as we get into darkness, we go thicker, and that's pretty much how I do my outlines on everything. I always, and that gives you this tapered effect. So nice and thick, and then as you get to any light, there will be thinner, and that gives you a really good balance in your line work. It'll give really good volume. So if that kind of thing was implemented throughout the entire piece, I think you'll end up with something really nice. And I'm also, as we get into the armpit, that's another thing to keep in mind. That's a dark area, so we can really pack in that line work in there. And then again, like I said, thinner there for where the light is, and then into darkness down here and where that bicep dips in. And then here again, the forearm, thin. And then I'm coming around, and then thickness, and then back to thin again up here, and that will look really cool, like a nice balance. You see what I mean? And then as we're getting under an arm, I can just go quite thick if you like, all the way around. Still add a little bit of volume, just so it's got some like stylization to it, and that'll really make things just nice, Under that elbow there, really dark and thick, even under that tricep. And I'm just going to do that technique through the entire line art process here. And another thing I do is that hand is held together with some nice thick outlines on the outside, but as we go in, we can just keep it all thin now. So any details inside of an object or anything like a character, inside of this, I'm going to go really thin and fine details, and that's going to make it look cool. So you can even do a little bit of cross-hatching if we like in areas where it's going to get darker, just for an extra effect. That's a nice thing to do, especially since he's a zombie. Keep it, that gives it kind of that edge, that rough edge. So I'm just doing a couple of little fine little rough details like this. So it keeps it sketchy. And that's a cool little technique. So under the hand here especially, a bit of cross-hatching, maybe a bit up there. And there we go. So that's kind of how I would do it. And the same thing with the face. You see up here how I've just gone really thick there, but thin on the chin, or the cheek, sorry, as it comes out, just as if the light is hitting it there. But then it's darker underneath a brow, like as our brows. It's always quite dark underneath an eyebrow. So another thing to keep in mind when doing zombies especially is to really blacken out those eyes, like make it look like they're sunken in more. So I've really held those eyes together with some black, heavy inking. And that'll really make those eyes look a bit more sunken in. And again here with the mouth, so I really want to try and make those teeth look quite refined and just a bit clearer to see. So I think that'd really help your work if we just had a bit more of that. Make it so that we can literally see the gums, and everything. And I've got this bit of skin ripped up. I really like that idea, like for a zombie. So really play up on the zombie effect. And you can see those gums quite clearly, and you can see how I'm blackening out here those areas behind the teeth. So that's a really good tip there to, yeah, just make the teeth look really held together. And I don't like to outline all the teeth like this. Like I wouldn't go through and do that. See how I've outlined every single tooth? I don't like doing that. So what I like to do is just do the side ones, like as they start to curl around. Yeah, I'll do that line completely closed off like that. But as they get towards the front and lighter, like you just do little hints of details like this, tiny little notches here and there, and that'll just suggest that the teeth line up like that. So that's, yeah, I highly recommend doing something like that. So there we go. That should do it with the detailing there. But there we go. Yeah. So you see how the inks, I just want that clarity. So in the original, I just feel like it's a little unclear. So I just wanted to, I'd really love to just spruce it up a bit more. And those details in the face, see how it's like kind of withered? You can still do that. I probably wouldn't do it as prominent though. So I'd do it a lot thinner. I think the outlines in this one are just a little thick. So overall, it's a little too much. What I mean is if we just had those details like this, thin, and just a little bit more, you know, finer, I think that would look a lot cooler, just like that. And same with the fingers as well. Just, you could even go around a couple of times like this. I just wouldn't do too much, that's all. But yeah, I thought I'd just do it up like this with a little bit of color underneath as well, just so we can see, just so I can really point out the detailing and you see the detailing in the fingers, all of that extra, those extra lines and the rendering. I just feel like it might have been pushed just a little too far as well if we just toned it down. But if I was going to do a render, I'd do it like this. So I've just done a quick once over of the, like just some cell shading, but then yeah, start to treat it like cross hatching maybe, or start sketching some more extra stuff in, and I'm just sketching that in like that. So yeah, that's kind of how I would probably do it. And I wouldn't do it so much with the outlines themselves. So I'd probably just keep it to the rendering. And like I said, I just did a couple of nicks with the inks. You see those? And yeah, I mean, like I said, I did a little bit of inking with the detailing there, but most of it can be done with the rendering, kind of like this. I'll leave it there. Let's do a quick comparison just so I can show you. So before and after. And yeah, it's really just all about clarity. That's all I wanted to point out. And also with the hands as well. I wanted him to look a little more zombie-like and a little less human or alive, I suppose you could say. So I opened up the hands, like reaching out instead of a fist. I feel like, yeah, fists make him seem a bit too strong, or like he knows what he's doing, you know what I mean? Like a little bit too switched on. Whereas zombies are just left, you know, to be dead and creepy and crazy. So that's kind of how I want to do that. But yeah, I'll leave it there, Aaron. And yeah, don't stop what you're doing. You've been doing some really good work. I've kept an eye on you for a while now, and you're killing it. I love your dynamic poses. You're really doing heaps of killer stuff. So yeah, definitely keep at it. And I hope this helps. Yeah, I love your work. All right, keep it up. Thanks, Aaron. Alright, that's it. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed seeing all your zombie submissions. You know, drawing the dead and all those like textures and just grunge effects. It's a whole different take on things. So I find it can be a bit of a challenge. And yeah, that's why I kind of chose zombies. So you all did great. I think that was awesome. Well done, everyone. And I'll start planning out the next theme for next month. And yeah, I highly recommend any new artists to join these monthly projects. Jump on my Patreon at patreon.com/PatrickBrown and jump on board. These are a lot of fun, very motivating. I've designed these to help you grow as an artist. And yeah, so there's a lot more involved in my Patreon as well. I do tutorials every fortnight. And there's a lot more Photoshop documents and art files, and there's a huge art community over there of about 500 artists, and we all help each other out, chatting through Discord and stuff like that. So I highly recommend jumping on board, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. So thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.